Okay, hello there, I'm Dennis. Welcome to my channel. And in this video, I'm going to showcase GhostBSD. I've been running GhostBSD on this particular hard drive, a SSD, since February, or I'll have to look and see and verify, but for a couple of years now. I installed it on this hard drive, I think right after I installed a FreeBSD on the previous video. I'll verify all that here in a second. But I'm going to highlight or showcase GhostBSD because it's one of the BSDs that it's easily accessible. And I've had some conversations where FreeBSD is not so end user friendly, so to speak. It requires a good bit of knowledge or at least the ability to search or the desire to search out whatever problems you might have. But with GhostBSD, a lot of those things is already going to be worked out for you. And if you just want a BSD installation that you can work with and kind of get familiar with what a BSD system can and will do, GhostBSD may be the system for you. So let me go over to my desktop. And we're on their homepage right here, ghostbsd.org. And this is where your journey will begin. This is where you'll come to get information, documentation, any news. You'll get downloads, support, and all that kind of stuff. They did come out with a recent release, February the 13th to 240101. And I'll make sure this link gets in the description because they go over the change logs and the things that they've improved on, the bug fixes and security fixes, which security fixes is probably the most important, but they're all important if it don't work. And it tells you where to download it, how to write the ISO to a USB stick if you're on a BSD, on Linux, or even a Mac or Windows. It tells you how to upgrade. It gives you the commands here to actually just run in the terminal how to upgrade your system. However, I didn't do that. I used what they call the update station. If I can find it here. Update station. And it'll reach out and check and see if you've got any updates. And when it came time for this new release, it recognized that, and it took me 2 reboots. No updates available, thanks. It took me 2 reboots to get fully installed, but you was going to have to do that anyway. So there's information here that's going to help you tremendously, I believe. Like I said, I'll make sure this link gets in the description. Now, about updates, when an update is available and you haven't checked, you're going to get a little security icon down in your, what I call the system tray, telling you that updates are available. So if you're kind of lazy about doing your updates, it'll tell you when there's an update available. All right, and this is their welcome page here where you're going to get all sorts of documentation, installation guide, upgrading guide, FreeBSD handbook, Mate desktop documentation. The documentation on GhostBSD is at least as good as FreeBSD, and it's based and built off of FreeBSD. So information that you'll find in GhostBSD, a lot of it will be diverted or moved over to a FreeBSD wiki or problem or whatever you're looking for. So they're kind of intermingled quite a bit. Here's a project page. Here you'll get a lot of information if you're interested in GhostBSD. It tells you a lot about it. Installing applications. Now here's one I didn't know about, and I haven't used it yet, but I plan to soon. GhostBSD software can be installed with pkg add and pkg install, and we'll look at the commands here in a second. But the pkg add, that's for installing a pre-built binary package from a local file, something that you've downloaded off of GitHub, for instance, and you can install it with the pkg add. Like I said, I haven't used that yet, but now that I've discovered it, I think I might try it. Here's a how-to about GhostBSD. Tips and tricks and desktop related, sound related, virtualization, software, games, hardware. A lot of information. but it's readily available, and a lot of information is good. Like I said, a lot of this will actually be, what do they call that when they go from one web links to another? It'll link to the FreeBSD pages. Let me close out of that. This is my desktop. We'll bring up some notes here. This is the websites that we just looked at. I'll make sure all of these get in the description below. There's one there that I didn't touch on, talking about what all the processes it goes through when it's booting up, which I'll make sure that link gets in the description. A brief history. GhostBSD Project had its beginnings in the early part of 2009. The idea of the project founders Eric Turgeon and Francis Toussaint. Our original goal was to produce a secure, installable FreeBSD Gnome live CD system. Gnome is where it got GhostBSD from. A major goal is to help new users adapt to FreeBSD. To me, they have done that. The first graphical installer was 2.5 release. Package management. Let me bring up a terminal. Let's see, man, PKG. Here, you get a full description. PKG provides an interface for manipulating packages, registering, adding, removing, and upgrading packages. PKG Static is a statically linked variant of PKG, typically only used for the initial installation of PKG. There are some differences in functionality. You could look up demand for that if you was interested. But you can see this is quite extensive. PKG does a lot of stuff, and it makes in the background makes it very simple for the end user, me. Clear that screen. Let's see, TD. I installed GhostBSD on this hard drive on this machine on June the 25th, 2022. So this June will be 2 years on this hard drive. We got 32 gigs of RAM. I made sure it had 8 gigabytes of swap, and it's on a 500 gig SSD. Let's see. So this is GhostBSD based on FreeBSD 14 stable, Xfce desktop. That's one thing I want to show before I get out of here. Right here, if you go to their download link, here you have the opportunity to relieve some stress on their mirrors by selecting a torrent download. I suggest you do that. Relieves them of some server pressure. But here is also where you can get a direct download, or a latest build ISO, which is going to be based on the same version but with any latest updates. So if you encounter a bug or in a current release, the latest build ISO could have a fix. So I wanted to point that out and I forgot. Alright, so let's see. Graphics. Audio, we're using OSS. That's the open sound system. Graphics, Intel Xeon, XOR, we're using X. Let's see. I forgot. We're using the fish shell, by the way. GhostBSD 2401 up 1.1. This is based on FreeBSD 14.0 stable. Alright. PKG, we just went through that. They have over 32,000 applications in the GhostBSD ports. So I feel pretty confident saying most everything I want is available. I put it that way. And what I do is content creation. So whatever I needed for that is available. Let's see, OSS, that's the open sound system, interface for making and capturing sound in Unix and Unix-like operating systems. The documentation again, I'll make sure this gets on the links below. The ease of installation, I would have to give this a 4. It gives a graphical installer, and I did download and actually installed the latest version of GhostBSD, the flagship Mate. And when you get to this point right here, this is where you'll have to make some decisions. Right now I could click next and it would be fine. But you'll see, here's where you're going to change your swap size, if you desire. I desired. I gave it, what did I say, 8 gigs of RAM? Or in here, I gave it 6 gigs of RAM. And that's really the most complicated part of this installation. So let me get rid of that now. And so that's why I gave it a 4. Just unfamiliarity with that installer is the only reason it's a 4. Otherwise, if it was the Calamaris installer, I'd probably give it a 3. But I'm going to give it a 4. And once you get installed, man, I'm going to tell you something. This is a good system. Let me minimize that. This is H-top that I took a screenshot of when it first booted. So on a fresh boot, we got 1.2 gigabytes of uses right here. Close that out. I forgot to show that on the FreeBSD. This is my menu. You'll see most everything in here is going to be in every menu. Starting with OBS, Kdenlive, Audacity, Krita, System Monitor, Simple Screen Recorder, and some weird webcam OID thing. I'm not going to click on it because it might mess up OBS. A software station, which is where you're going to get your, they make it easy to get a actual visual of what packages you may look for. Let it load. It's going to sync and load every time you do this, which is okay. It needs to. If it wasn't doing it automatically, I would do it for it. So let's just look up. I just installed this recently, so let's look that up. Oh, that's not spelled right. Celluloid. There we go. And the check mark indicates that it is installed, but you would just check it, click apply, and it installs. And you've already given your password, so you won't have to do that again. So you got that and the PKG. And they actually recommend you use the update station. They really do. Software station, I got Android file transfer. Most applications that I use are some graphic stuff that they don't have. And I'll go over that in just a few minutes here. Let's just see what H-top says right now. Says I've got 2.89 gigs, and that's with OBS running, all the tabs open in the web browser, Firefox. So that's not bad. I've been running this, like I said, for almost a couple years now. Actually, a couple years. If you count the hard drive it was installed on before I put it to this SSD. So let me go back to my main screen here, and let's talk about GhostBSD. GhostBSD has the only time I've had a hiccup at all has it involved VirtualBox, and it was such a simple thing. It refused to load. I waited 1 week, updated updated the VirtualBox, and it's worked ever since. So they're very fast about keeping things up to date, even though it's based on FreeBSD stable. They still want to keep your bugs worked out for you. And that's awesome. If a person is interested in a BSD and they're a little bit afraid, or they've even got FreeBSD installed and found it too difficult, GhostBSD is taking care of that for us. They've made it where it's very easy. Like I said, I gave it a 4 on the install. That's pretty good. The only decision I had to make was how much RAM I wanted to give it, swap space. So those things are awesome, and then this is probably, if I was going to recommend BSD to a new user, an experienced Linux user, and he wanted to try BSD, my first response would be GhostBSD. Run GhostBSD a while, look around in there and see how they do things, although I will be the first to point out there's some differences in the init system, but for instance, it's different. There's 2 different init systems. One's FreeBSD and one works on GhostBSD. So that would be one of the differences, but that's not a difference that's going to stop your system from running. And so I would recommend GhostBSD over all the other BSDs as far as getting introduced to BSD. And like I already said, the only hiccup I really had was on VirtualBox, and I waited a week or so, or not less. I waited a week and upgraded, and it's been working ever since. So this is the easiest way to me, most convenient way to try a BSD. What I don't like about GhostBSD would apply to all the BSDs. They don't have an on-disk utility, hard info, and a few other softwares that just not available, and they'll probably never be available. So I'm going to strive on. It's based on FreeBSD, and therefore the pack is built on FreeBSD stable. So therefore the packages are going to be slightly slightly older than new versions. And for instance, VirtualBox is still on 6 point something and other, and VirtualBox and already up to over 7 point something. So that's an example. Other than that, if I had, like I said, I've been perfectly happy in GhostBSD. As far as the BSDs go, it is the easiest. Printing, plug up a printer, open up the print thing in the menu, print settings in the menu, and boom, there you're off to the races. Browsing the internet, easy. Installing packages, easy. Up to date, keeping things up to date is easy. That's my recommendation. In order to keep the video short, I'm going to stop it right here and just say GhostBSD on this machine. It's in my creation station. Peace out, guys. Catch you on another video. Bye.